and welcome to a brand new Corn Nation Overreaction celebration show, because I haven't done one of these in quite some time. I'm Greg Mahachko. You guys know me. You know everybody by now. You regulars here especially. But we have Haas Reuter. He's not behind me. He's just immediately to my left. And we have Jake. Jake, how are you doing, sir?
Doing well. Feeling good.
Haas, how are you, sir?
I'm feeling good. It's been a while since I felt this way.
Sounds like you guys had a hell of a weekend. You want to share anything that might have gone on in the last 24 to 48 hours?
Nah. I had a nice cigar.
Yeah, no, it's nice celebratory atmosphere that I was in. Wedding that I went to on Friday night, celebrating bowl eligibility yesterday, and had a Friendsgiving I had to go to today. So, it's a kickoff to the greatest week of the year.
Yep. It is your favorite week. What do you like most about Thanksgiving, Haas?
Honestly, what's more American than Thanksgiving?
4th of July.
Yeah, no, see, that's like the rah-rah, Star Spangled Awesome, Toby Keith, awesomeness that is America. Thanksgiving's a little bit more subtle. It's, it's family, it's football, it's hell, Black Friday, commercialism. What's more American than that, So it's just a good week. The weather's perfect this week. I'm a cold weather guy, so I'm always on board with it. And, it's just a good time.
You say that you're on board with it, and we'll talk about it, but you did say it's going to be 18 or something at kickoff when you're in Iowa City on Friday.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 18 at kickoff, Greg, but I don't think anybody likes exposure time in the cold.
No, okay.
Always fact checking me, man.
So, I make it a point never to complain about summer heat because it leaves me 3.5 months to complain about winter cold.
Yeah. Summer is for the people who have never worked outdoors in their life. The people who say they love summer are the people that worked in air-conditioned offices.
Well, I have worked in the elements, sir. So how dare you?
Well, to quote Fred, you were yucking my yum earlier. So, got to dish it back here. Equal opportunity asshole over here, Greg.
That's right. It sounds like you guys just had an entire weekend of revelry, and why not? Last night we got to celebrate Nebraska being bowl eligible, 6th win. Haas, we can finally. I went live last night. It was a kind of an impromptu 5-heart. It wasn't an overreaction. Minnie was here. I said we can scratch a few things off the list. We don't ever have to say. We haven't beat Wisconsin since the iPhone 4 was new. That's off the list. And we no longer have to say haven't been to a bowl game since the Obama administration.
That one's off the list. And, so there's one thing left to do. Go hang half 100 on Iowa.
We've been talking about that since what, 17 or 18?
17 or 18, 50 burgers,
Well, we are not alone.
For a native son to that state to be the one that does it.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Let's shout out. The chat is here. Let's see. Living in Omaha, David Matney, the official realtor of the 5-Heart podcast, says, good evening. Aaron Rostovsky says, some might say great evening. Fred's here, says, hey, everyone. And Raji. Aaron Rostovsky says, it's most games, Jake. Again, we gave Jake a pass last week, and for a good reason, because he knew he was going to be out of town, and he said, I'm going to spend time with my wife. And I said, you should probably do that.
Yeah, I was gone for a whole week. So I just wanted to,
Braska Rascal is here. Says, hey, Fred. Doesn't say hey to us. That's fine. Rashi's here saying, hello, good people. Let's see. Yep. I apparently was yucking your yum. I don't even know exactly what that means. And it just sounds dirty. So I apologize. If I could take it back.
You should be ashamed and embarrassed, Greg. Frankly, I'm depressed and ashamed.
That's fair. You talk about, what I love about Thanksgiving is you get food, family, and football. Not necessarily in that order. Some would say probably family should be first or football should be first, but you get the big ones, all in one day. So Rostovsky's right there with you. He says the goat of all holidays.
Nothing like watching Dallas and New York this year on Thursday.
That's going to be a bad game. That's going to be some bad football. Marianne is here. Hello, Marianne. Says
Marianne.
Hi. Fred says there will be enough fat fatties to keep you warm in Iowa City, I bet.
A happily taken man.
Yeah. Rostovsky says it is the most wonderful time of the year.
And he just said he's eating a pumpkin pie that, right now, Costco had one of those today for Friendsgiving. $5.99. Can't go wrong.
Let's see. Charles has shingled roofs in the summer, detasseled corn, and so he'll take summer over winter.
I mean,
I agree. I was the lowest.
Free country, ain't it?
It is.
Huss?
I said free country, and I mean, you're entitled to whatever opinion, even if it's wrong, Charles.
I'm agreeing with Charles on that. I was the lowest man on the totem pole for a construction company, and I was out there all summer, man, just doing the work no one else wanted to do, and I'll still take summer. I'm not a cold weather guy.
Summer is for the birds.
Well, again, you're entitled to your opinion, Hoss.
Yeah, it's the right one.
I don't disagree with you too often. I just want to put that out there. All right.
Okay.
Well, let's get into it. Nebraska looked sharp most of the game in the 44-25 win. They never trailed. For whatever reason, I thought that maybe in the second quarter, Wisconsin would have been when Wisconsin would have hit a field goal to go up. But I double checked. Bell to bell, Nebraska led this game, and it was the type of performance that I think we've certainly been missing. We hadn't seen an offensive attack like this, almost 300 yards through the air, our first 100-yard rusher. But we actually put more points up against Wisconsin than anybody that Wisconsin had played.
It's the third most since 2014.
I did not know that, but edged out Iowa, I think, from a week or two prior that scored 42 on the Badgers. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to make excuse. I'm not certainly not a Wisconsin apologist, but what about, and I guess we'll just dive right into it. Hoss, we'll start with you. What about the offensive game plan was so successful yesterday?
That's a great starting point. And really what happened was Dana Holgorsen modernized the offense in 2 weeks. I mean, we went from something that was very bland and boring under Marcus Satterfield, one-back formations, not trying to incorporate too much misdirection or spread concepts. And in that time frame, Dana Holgorsen implemented just a whole litany of things to help us create extra gaps and distort reads for the linebackers, because modern college football is all about manipulating linebackers, kind of putting sand in their feet, so to speak, making sure that they're having to be worried about defending play action, defending against the mesh, shallow cross play, and then, having to read their keys in the run game for, is this a counter play? Is this, a split flow concept? And so while Holgorsen did a lot of neat things pre-snap to, get people moving around and create space, he also did it before the snap. You saw the use of like a lot of two-back shotgun formations. Our first play of the game was inside zone cross buck, have one back going one way to cut off the backside pursuit. The other back comes the other way. And Emmett Johnson really, he ripped off a nice run off that. And then the motions to ID coverage before the snap. You saw Lindenmeyer in motion a lot, kind of giving us a clue. Is this man? Is this zone? We used a lot of change of strength motions, to outnumber Wisconsin at the point of attack, whether that was with a blocker or flipping it to Barney on a little jet sweep tap pass. So really, it was just getting to the point where we knew that we're at a disadvantage at some areas on offense, i.e., like what we talked about earlier this year with the offensive guards in the center area, that controlling the A gaps being a problem. And we decided to give them some help. We decided that, hey, we know we're not so dynamic enough up front that we can be bland and boring on offense. So let's incorporate motion. Let's incorporate ball fakes. And let's help these guys out by not allowing linebackers to come screaming downhill to stuff duo on 3rd and 2.
Jake, Nebraska T-Bone said a minute ago, with the backs were seeing the holes and shooting through them. I thought that both Dante and Emmett both were just I mean, they were explosive once they got the ball. Certainly you had to see that as well.
Yeah, explosive and decisive.
Mm-hmm.
What I noticed more so than, Haas, more the X's and O's guy, much more adept at talking about that, so I'll leave that to him. But what I noticed from just more of a casual observer standpoint, the offense seemed like it had confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan Raiola was slinging the ball. Finally, we saw some on-line throws with some steam on them that we haven't seen. The running backs were attacking holes when they were opening up. Everything seemed much more confident offensively than it has really at any point this season. So, and I believe that's the most points we put up on a Big Ten opponent since 21 Northwestern.
Yeah, 56-7.
56-7. And I don't know about before that, but I think that's the most points we put up in a Power 5 against a P4 opponent.
Yeah,
since
in
that
a
game
long
as well.
time.
And then, yes, game planning, play calling, all that plays a huge factor. Unlike, Luke Fickell, I don't know if anyone caught his presser before the game. Someone asked him who's going to be calling the plays, and he said, "Why does it matter?"
That's such a Bo Pelini answer, and I say that from the standpoint of defensive-minded head coaches and play calling do not mix.
I don't like Luke Fickell at all. I think he's a jerk, and I'm glad that we laid an ass whooping on his team. So anyway, this isn't about him or Wisconsin. But that being said, it was not a perfect game, and I'm sure we're going to get to that. There was a lot of errors, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and there were some big drops. I mean, there were 2 end zone drops. There was also a Jamal Banks, I believe it was a dig route, or might have been a deep curl route that was, I think, an 11-yard throw that Raiola put right on the numbers, and he dropped that one as well. So, yes, awesome, fun game, great offensive performance. Running backs both seemed decisive and explosive, but not without errors.
I think one of the things, too, that really stands out to me about the decisiveness that the offense showed was putting individual defenders in conflict. We ran a lot of RPOs in this game, with the inside zone going up the middle to either Dowdell or Emmett Johnson. And then we were running a slant behind it to Barney. And, I have actually up on my TV right now because I was rewatching it for a few things before we started this show. And Dylan, when you're able to get guys isolated, defenders isolated, and really manipulate them and move them around to where you want them to go and you react accordingly, Dylan was able to fit the ball in, different windows, sidearm, 3/4 arm. And so it goes to show how prevalent the spread offense, what's traditionally been known as the spread offense, but anymore it's just football. That's what the modern game's turned into, is because the traditional concepts we were using under Satterfield, it just, everything was so congested in the middle of the field. We weren't trying to spread them out, make them defend all 53.3 yards. But yeah, I think the backs looked phenomenal. Emmett Johnson, might be prone to hyperbole a bit, but he runs like a bigger Darren Sproles, real upright, but like with this weird lean, kind of like that. And just, he's a violent runner. I want to see him get more involved. I think that he could be a really good tailback, although he probably doesn't have breakaway speed.
But he's a lot stronger.
Yeah. He's stronger, and he has violent acceleration.
Yes.
And I know it was one of the talking points last week, and I don't know if it was Rhule or Holgorsen or both, really wanted to emphasize from the running backs the yards after contact. And Johnson was, I feel it, me being the, something bad is about to happen type of worst case scenario. Greg sitting in my chair, I was like, oh man, he's gonna try to extend this run just a little too long, and he's gonna get popped from behind. He's gonna get hurt. He's gonna fumble, something like that. But knock on wood. I mean, they got through yesterday's game. He looked great. And again, Dante ran with. He's always, I don't know. I think maybe it's been one of the bigger criticisms we have of Dante Dowdell is that he goes out seeking contact, but like he just ran. I mean, Jake, you said decisively. He and I don't think he was when he got to the second or third level. I don't think he was necessarily seeking. I think he was looking for pay dirt. I think Dante, is trying to. Maybe the second half of the season, he's trying to evolve his skill set more, to, the touchdowns that he had were all, I think, within the 5-yard line or maybe just outside the 5-yard line.
Touchdown.
I think he's
nothing wrong with that.
Touchdown
vulture. There's nothing wrong with that. You got to have somebody to finish off a drive.
Right. But I think he's trying to maybe evolve his game a little bit to, I don't know if he'll ever have that breakaway speed. No offense to him. If Emmett Johnson doesn't really have it, then I don't know if Dante's going to have it. But again, he was running hard yesterday, and I think he was, looking for the end zone more than looking for safety to hit.
I think a lot of that stems too from the difference in offensive scheme and play calling when your run game is so much middle of field under Satterfield and you're not trying to spread the defense out horizontally. You kind of almost have to anticipate contacts coming, and it's coming early. So a lot of backs will start to seek it out instead of getting punishment delivered to them. They'll be the one dealing it out. I think when you're able to get good blocking because the defense is stretched thin structurally, and then you're able to break into the open field, it's a little bit easier to, start to size people up and, plan your cuts accordingly as you get through the second and third levels.
Another one from Nebraska T-Bones a couple minutes ago said Emmett Johnson was running like an NFL back yesterday.
I agree.
That was going to be my question to either of you. He or Dante, are these Sunday guys? It's going to be a little bit more development headed their direction.
Yeah, I think more development, more production. Because it kind of goes back to like what Kurt Signetti mentioned about portal guys, for instance, production over potential. I think the potential is there with both of them. I think that for Dowdell, he's got to continue to work on vision. We need to see him piece together games of not seeking out contact like he has. He probably needs to work on balance. I think that he's explosive in terms of acceleration. He's a very powerful back too. I think one of the things that he might really need to start to work on is top end speed. Granted, we haven't had a lot of opportunities to see him, unveil his top end speed. Emmett Johnson, it's another thing more, putting more production out there over potential, because Dowdell was a 4-star out of Picayune, Mississippi. Emmett Johnson was a walk-on from Minneapolis. So, that those things do matter to a degree just because of in terms of exposure as you get through college, as you start to get on NFL draft guys' radars. Like Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks are great examples. They really pay attention to who's coming out for the draft, whether that's guys at big-time schools, guys at lower-level schools. But at the same time, you'll notice that a lot of those guys, they still kind of go off of high school recruiting rankings and where guys were in terms of notoriety. So, again, put some production on paper.
Let's see. Let's talk about perimeter blocking. That was much improved. You definitely can tell that Dana Holgorsen wanted to emphasize that. I think he even called it out last week in the press conference. Rostovsky says that Banks was blocking his ass off. Motion into a wham play on the E-Mall was perfection.
Yeah, when we were running in the red zone, all three of Dowdell's touchdown runs were off of a, kind of an escort motion duo play where Banks was coming in motion right at the snap. He hits the kick out block on the defensive end, and then we're just giving it up to Dowdell right up the middle. Offensive line's down blocking left or right, and then we're just cutting off of the block of the play side guard and tackle. I think you will see probably a quarterback run component off of that play where perhaps Haarberg keeps it and, has Banks lead blocking into the flat.
While we're talking about running backs, Fred has a serious question. And it's serious because he actually puts that at the very beginning. Serious question. Holgorsen said running backs weren't seeing the holes. Was the existing staff just that myopic or fucking stupid to not coach the RBs properly?
I think that the myopic and stupid is maybe an accurate assumption because, through, Dana came here, the 21st game into the Rhule era, 22nd game into the Rhule era. And before that, we never saw a running back really get going. The only one who had a 100-yard game previous to yesterday in Rhule's tenure was Anthony Grant against Louisiana Tech in 2023. And that's probably more of a case of somebody who's, a fifth-year senior at that point, if not a sixth-year senior, if I'm not mistaken, who's been around and played football for a while.
Yeah. And no offense to Louisiana Tech, but an I'm trying to figure, an overpowered opponent, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, Louisiana Tech, they weren't schlubs. That's for sure. I was actually pretty impressed with who they had last year.
I'm going to start this one by Blaine Cole about offering dual threat. I want to approach it a little later in the show. Okay. Let's see. This is a fun one. This might have been my favorite play of the whole game when they have double fullbacks in, one of those fullbacks being Ty Robinson, and he absolutely crushed the dude's shoulder. Marianne Roberts says, why haven't they used Robinson on offense more often? That was awesome. Well, we had a fullback, and then he got hurt. And so we've been – Jake, I mean, it was what'd you think? I think it was on the last touchdown, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I thought they were going to hand him the ball, to be honest. I thought
that one too.
I thought they were going to hand him the ball and let him try to get in the end zone on senior day. And I mean, he just looked. I mean, it was kind of. Well, for one thing, Barrett Liebentritt, after kind of a rough season last year, was having a really good season this year when he was on the field. It's a shame that he got injured. So why haven't they used him more often? I don't know. I'm not going to say it's gimmicky, but sometimes it feels a little gimmicky to put in a defensive player at fullback like that, or maybe even, Matt Rhule, it seems to me like sometimes he doesn't want to seem like he's like showing up his opponent. He always gives a lot of credit to the opponent. And I don't know if maybe that could be seen as like not cool, like you're showing him up, but I mean, it was awesome. So yeah, then we see a guy laying on the turf, and I don't like any of the players getting hurt for sure. I definitely wasn't laughing at that. I was just thinking that, of course, it'd be Ty Robinson, right, to be the one to actually cause an injury. So, and obviously, I hope that guy's okay, regardless of my opinions and what I feel about Wisconsin football and their head coach, who might be the most unlikable MFer that I've seen this season as coach. I do, all the love and respect to the players and hate seeing guys get hurt. So, but yeah. Because we had a damn good fullback before he got hurt. That's why we haven't seen him more often, I think.
Right. Wade Farr asked this one before. I don't know. He might have ducked out, but it is an interesting question. Can you tell me why Heinrich Haarberg doesn't play alongside Raiola instead of coming in as a QB? Each and every time Double H comes in, he just runs the ball. Why not have Raiola pass to HH or anything different?
We have.
Earlier on, right?
Yeah, earlier on. Honestly, like I know Kansas does a lot of stuff with 2 quarterback systems. It's still kind of gimmicky. And at the end of the day, he is still your backup quarterback. You do want to limit some exposure, in the event that Raiola does go down.
Why don't we let him throw it?
I think you could potentially see that against Iowa or Wisconsin or Iowa or the bowl game opponent.
We should. I bet Holgorsen probably, showing just like, what was it, 3 or 4 runs? Maybe it was a little bit. Maybe it was more than that.
No, we're pretty diversified in terms of our run schemes. Inside zone, some pin and pull. We had some trap fold schemes.
Right. Even when Haarberg was in, like it wasn't just the same look every time. But
that first touchdown run that he had to start the game, that was something that we didn't really run much. We haven't really ran much with him this year or last year, but it was a play that Frost had in the offense where Chancellor Brewington used to be the one to go in motion and just kill people on the edge for like Adrian Martinez. Dowdell, it's not a real violent block, but he gets the DB on the corner, flattens him, gives Haarberg his path into the end zone. Those kinds of plays, I think, are what make it so difficult to defend a mobile quarterback in the red zone because they're decisive and they just get upfield. They're not things that take a while to develop on the perimeter.
I would try to find if here we go. Charles said a little bit ago, I keep reminding myself that Wisconsin's a 500 ball club when Nebraska played them, so tempering enthusiasm for the Iowa game. And the only reason I started that because Beetle B also says that's not Beetle B. Wisconsin was not at their best. I don't necessarily think we have to put an asterisk by this win because just getting the win feels great. Mm-hmm. And it's something we haven't had in 8 years. So, I mean, is this the Wisconsin that we've known that we experienced for years? How many
celebrated dancing on Nebraska's grave post 2001?
All of them.
Yeah, so fuck it. Like, who cares if Wisconsin wasn't at their best? It's a team we haven't beaten in 12 years. Don't mean to sound so, aggressive towards a Beetle, but at the same time, like, this is a reason to celebrate.
Wisconsin's offense looked pretty damn good. Like, it was, our defense made mistakes, but they were executing nicely in the passing game. Their quarterback, I know he was buried on the depth chart, but he could throw the ball around pretty good at times. So
there we go. I got to figure out my pointing. David Matney says a win is a win.
It was still a decisive, dominant win, no matter how you slice it. And it felt great to beat Wisconsin that way.
Yeah, to take over a game.
To take over a game and play a complete game from the first snap to the last.
And to realistically have the game in hand midway through the second quarter.
Oh, especially it's a game where Wisconsin nails that bomb to make it 37-25 after they go for 2. And I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but probably every other Husker fan is starting to think, shit, we go 3 and out or turn it over on this next position. They score. It's 37-32, 37-33.
I was.
I was. I was sitting there. I was sitting next to Katie, and I was like, oh, shit, like, here we go, And then what happens? Dana stays aggressive. We go down there and get a score. And we literally snatched that game right back from them. All the momentum that could have shifted to them. We righted the ship. We were able to control what we controlled. So that was just an awesome situation.
Fred with a good point here. At this rate, it's end of the season and everyone's a mess. So it's kind of like, fuck it, we won. I'll take it. I mean, I think we've been dealing with it for so long this season that we have been playing with our third string left tackle for most of this year.
Well, after a few games, he's not the third string anymore. Just like
you know what I mean, though.
But just like guys who are freshmen by a certain point in the year, they're not rookies anymore. And I get the sentiment, but I think it's the best thing that could have happened in Nebraska football long term because Teddy Prohaska is never going to stay healthy. He's proven that. Turner Corcoran, he's somebody that's moving on. His eligibility's expired. So at the end of the day, this might have been the best thing moving forward because I think Gunnar Gatula's a solid player.
But it was yesterday. It was Micah Mazuka at left tackle.
No, he was in that. He comes in every once in a while. They give him a few series at left tackle, like the touchdown run to Dowdell. He was at right guard. So it differs series to series.
All right, that's what I get for not paying as close of attention to Toss.
Fact checking you.
Appreciate that. Keeping receipts.
I still stand 10 toes down on this one, or if I was Dion, 6 toes down.
Minnie says, "Hey Hoss, remember when you said to start Heinrich Haarberg against Wiscy? You too, Greg, Jake, you're safe. Go Big Red."
Mm-hmm.
I
still stand by it too. Any hope in Dylan before this game was just blind faith and optimism. Sorry, Minnie.
I was worried that his confidence was being destroyed.
That's where
I wasn't thinking like, hey, bench him so we have a better chance to win because we don't know if we would have at that point or not. And but I was thinking, let's not further destroy this kid's confidence by leaving him in there and getting beat up the way that he was. And I don't mean that physically. Yeah, physically part of it, but also mentally. But I think we saw a different version of him yesterday.
I was kind of in the same area. One, as you, like, let's not destroy the guy's confidence. 2, I still stand by Haarberg thinking he was our best option just because of what he presents to you against Big Ten defenses. Like, Wisconsin's defense was still no slouch. They were third in the conference heading into yesterday. They were still playing good football. So I just thought that being able to play 11 on 11 based on the past 10 games that we have to go off of was probably our best choice. But, glad I was wrong. And I know a few comments here in the comment section from the chat or the Filthy Animals. I know Corcoran's eligible to return. It's more of a case of if the staff wants him to return because they got to get down to 95 guys.
Right.
So I pretty much think his eligibility is probably done with.
One of the things that I really appreciated statistically about yesterday's game is Nebraska has 0 negative rushing yards. The only rushing yards that show up, are as minuses on the stack column or the knees late in the game to ice it. But Johnson, Dowdell, Ja'Cory Barney, everybody was moving downfield. I don't know the last time that happened. Like nobody, I don't think there might not have been a single TFL from Wisconsin yesterday.
I don't think there was.
I don't think so either.
So,
I'm pretty sure that it is 105 for the
Yeah, I'm
Sox.
just looking it up now as part of a proposed new athlete compensation model, potentially moving from a roster of more than 115 to as few as 85 to 95 players. But that was from May.
yeah, Londell says no negative plays.
No negative plays.
So thanks, Londell. Appreciate that. It was refreshing because I couldn't tell you the last time it happened. Just everything moving in a forward trajectory, if you will.
Yep, 105. Just confirmed it. Sorry.
Let's talk about that offensive line.
I was going to say the offensive line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fred says
it looked like when they got some help schematically.
Ben Scott was great in housing parlance. I think many would say he was the OL's joist.
I've been accused of being a wordsmith, but okay.
Yeah, I think you got to be around for more Thursday nights for that one. But offensive line overall, again, we kind of talked about, the scheming to their benefit, but they one of the better OL performances of the season.
Oh yeah, they're physical. They won the point of attack. To quote Frank Solich, they moved around well, and really, they got help where they didn't have defenders outnumbering them at the point of attack because we really tried to get the defense spread out before the ball was even snapped.
We'll start that. Let's see here. Sorry, I was trying to follow up some other comments.
Thanks, Paul.
What did Paul say? Oh, I don't agree with that at all.
No, I've been wrong. I've been wrong a couple of times on here tonight. I'll admit it.
Theo says, "What's your take on Fedoni not playing much after the fall start?
Accountability.
Has he kind of been, for lack of a better term, replaced?"
I think it's just being accountable, holding somebody accountable. Drop passes. He played 2 snaps yesterday, and I know he had the false start. Somebody earlier today when I was at a Thanksgiving event said he had a drop pass on the other snap that I'm not real sure of. But, you got to do what you got to do. Set somebody down. Make them learn.
Well, I'll read this one to you, Jake, and then I'll let you kind of respond. Londell says, "Fedoni's not that great. We've been waiting for his potential to show up, and it never does. Feel for the kid, but he ain't it." And again, I think large part of that could be the injuries that he's had the last couple of years, Jake.
I do feel for him. And to be honest, it sounds kind of lame, but my heart kind of breaks for the guy because I think he's really a true Husker through and through, and he's been loyal to the program, but he got Matt Harriand. Mm-hmm. And he just never has been the same, and I just don't think it's ever going to happen for him. And to be honest with you, Borkature looked a lot quicker, faster, yards after the catch yesterday, and man, to me it looks like he's been replaced. Not even just the penalty, but just the play on the field. Fedoni doesn't look like he moves very well. Sad to me, what maybe could have been, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think if it hasn't happened now, it's not going to happen. It's getting pretty late in his career at this point. And I honestly think Borkature has probably been the superior player for a few years now.
I've been saying it all
I think
season.
He's got more of a Sunday future than Fedoni has. So it's unfortunate because there was a lot of potential there, but at some point you are what your production says you are.
Yeah.
Mr. Matney says, question, do you see Holgorsen putting in his own guys as position coaches in the offseason?
Yeah, I do. Like we talked about on Thursday night, Jake Spavital, who was his offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, is at Baylor right now because that staff's probably getting fired. Bob Stitt, is a good friend of his who was at Montana and Colorado School of the Mines. And I believe he most recently was an analyst at Oklahoma State. That's another guy. Bill Bedenbaugh, who's the offensive line coach at Oklahoma, who was his offensive line coach at West Virginia. That's another guy to maybe keep an eye on. That's not to say I don't think Donovan Raiola is a terrible offensive line coach, but I just think that it's more important to have Holgorsen having guys in place that are teaching his scheme and what he wants.
Yeah.
Will that affect, if that's the case, and if Donovan, if they, I guess it depends on how they mutually part ways, but would that affect Dylan or Dayton for that matter? Hard to say.
Hard to say.
I don't know. Speaking of
I-
Donovan, real quick, while we were on that subject, sorry, Greg.
No, good.
Say he and Luke Fickell had a little bit of a spat leaving the field yesterday. I don't know if anyone knows what was said, but there were some words exchanged between those two. Man, I would have loved to have seen it. Let's have no security and let Donnie and Luke go at it. I like the way that sets up, based on my opinion, of Luke Fickell. I would love to see that.
Luke Fickell's the most decorated heavyweight wrestling champion in Ohio history.
Is he really?
Mm-hmm.
I still think Donnie would have bitch slapped him, but
yeah, I've heard Donnie some crazy stories from when he was a player at Wisconsin.
Man, maybe I'm judging a book by its cover. Luke Fickell doesn't look too tough to me.
Luke Fickell he's a big time nose guard for Ohio.
Is he?
Yeah.
You know more than I do. I didn't know much about his past.
He was actually who I was more leaning towards wanting to hire back in 22.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But I liked him and Rhule, but I kind of was like, man, I really like Fickell's defense at Cincinnati. I think Wisconsin, bringing him into Wisconsin, he's at Cincinnati. He wanted to bring in Phil Longo as an air raid offensive coordinator. That's like Bill Callahan getting hired at Nebraska and going from the option and not even naming your receivers X, Y, or Z, and suddenly going to the West Coast offense with 20-word play calls. So I think he's just a victim of, trying to undergo, a cultural revolution of the Wisconsin football program. Yeah. I just don't think it's a good fit for him. I think he should have stayed at Cincinnati for another year. And I honestly think that he should have waited for somewhere like Michigan State to open up, or even Purdue.
I'm going to fire this one to you, Jake. Paul Peterson says, guys, don't you think that there's some politics to go into with who's playing? I think sometimes these higher rate star guys get more leadway at first, just like Jake was talking about Fedoni. And I think, before I send it to you, Jake, in talking, maybe with you, Haas, on Thursday night, that's what Holgorsen is trying to change about, like, how sometimes some coaches have blinders on and they have their favorites. Jake, sometimes is it the name that's on the back of the jersey?
100%. That is not even a question. And offensive coaches, whether it's position coaches or the OC, or they even head coaches, they start to kind of fall in love with these players. And I mean, I think that we all have biases, whether they're inherent or whether we know about them or we don't, we recognize them. And that's 100% the case. And I think we saw yesterday, I know it's just, we're not seeing practice every day. And this is just a one game, sample size, but Borkacher looked a hell of a lot better. And for Lindemeyer looked better for that matter as well. So
kind of makes me wonder if Lindemeyer perhaps was one of those guys that Holgorsen was referencing through the week.
Yeah, we didn't see much Quinn Clark now that I think about it.
Always saw him with his helmet on. Always saw him standing right there like he was going to be shuttled in, and maybe the opportunity to run personnel package with what we wanted to use him for never came up. But I wanted to go off of what Jake was talking about with the name on the jersey, the question that Paul brought up as well. I think guys, position coaches are prone to, the sunk cost fallacy. The guys that they recruited not wanting to give up on, highly rated players that they won a recruiting battle for. And they give them as many opportunities as they can to get right. And I think that it's just at a point where the best players need to play regardless. You don't win a championship, or become a great college football player just because you were a great high school player. Your past does tend to be the best predictor for the future, but also you got to develop. You have to develop. And if, Jake is, a 0-star walk-on from Hyannis, Nebraska, and he comes in and hits the weights and goes to every conditioning session and, focuses on eating, lifting, getting bigger, getting more athletic. And he shows up and, dekes out a 4-star linebacker that came in from Texas. Well, the best player plays. Is that player from Texas going to get all the reps initially in practice? Yeah, he is, because they brought him in for that purpose. But over time, you got to give everybody on the roster a shot to, if they're producing in practice, they need to earn playing time.
I agree, 100%. And Charles Hewlett says, I think it can go along this thread here. Do you think Holg was brought in partially to yell at the players to play better / harder? You think
it's an experienced offensive coordinator who's done it at a high level, who knows what it looks like and how to make it happen. So, and I think that part of that is getting the players to play better and harder.
Well, we've been talking quite a bit about the offense. Let's talk about defense. And I think I'll kick it to you first, Jake, but having been here with you guys as long as I have, I think I really finally started putting not that I never believed you, but seeing it for myself in live game film. Isaac Gifford, great run stopper. A little loose on the pass defense, Jake.
Not necessarily a great run stopper when he's not playing near the line of scrimmage. Actually, he's pretty rough. There was one play, I believe it was a 4th down, where Giff that was his gap. He was in his gap, whiffed, but luckily number 5, John Bullock, was there to absolutely steamroll and stop the play. It would have been a 1st down if Bullock would have been there. So again, Gifford, a guy who my heart goes out to, and I think seems like a really awesome guy, and he's a damn good athlete. Obviously, everybody at this level is a good athlete and a good football player, but he's one of the weaker links on defense, in my opinion.
Yeah. He's smart. He knows the scheme inside and out. He's in the right position as the play unfolds. He just doesn't quite have the athleticism to finish the play. Right. You see him overrunning things, not being there on time. I mean, he gave up a deep pass yesterday. Can't remember if it was a deep pass earlier in the game or if it might have been the deep pass that led to the touchdown. That was their touchdown to make it 37-25. But he just comes up and bites on an intermediate route when he's playing middle of field coverage. And, it need to clamp the crossing route over the top of it. And so it's just stuff like that you're a 5th-year senior, maybe even he's a 6th-year senior. I'm not real sure on which recruiting class he was in, and COVID kind of ruined everybody's eligibility. But it's just stuff like that where at the end of the day, he's been a liability and hurt the team.
Liability.
Then he's helped the team this year. And it's unfortunate because as a Rover last year, he played a lot of really good football.
When
that also goes back to the lack of creative offenses we saw last year.
Yep. And I didn't want to step on it. I was just trying to agree to add to your point. When he was able to not have to cover a lot of ground and just attack when he was up close, he was really good. Mm-hmm. But in the possessions, I believe, was that a cover 1 concept, Haas, where he had the deep middle where he blew it?
I'd have to look back at it for sure to confirm, but it's either cover 1 or cover 3. We were in some form of single high.
And he was whatever. He was the high single, and he just completely blew his assignment. And, Giff whiffs. Yeah. It
almost seems like instead of anticipating what might happen based on film study and practice all week, it kind of feels like he's guessing.
He's like winging it out there.
Yeah.
It's like he's kind of just like trying to play on instincts strictly.
And I know both of you, I'm not trying to be I told you so guy. But I know I've told both of you over at various points over the past year that we were going to miss Omar Brown in 2024. And Omar, he signed with the Broncos. I think he got cut from their practice squad, but he had Sunday talent, and it didn't quite materialize for him, as a rookie, but he covered up a lot of issues in the back end last year. He was able to play safety and allow Gift to be down closer to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I think that we're going to miss Deshaun Singleton this next year, because that's a guy that you forget he's out there sometimes. because he's playing consistently. Now, he had a pretty bad game against Illinois. The entire defensive backfield did, really. But he's somebody that's also really solid. And I'm happy to see that against an RPO-heavy team like Wisconsin, we didn't go with that Illinois game plan of playing match quarters and just sitting back and cover 4 and trying to keep everything in front of us.
I'm not a fan of that defensive scheme in general.
I'm not either. Iowa does it to perfection. They run their 4-2-5 Raider package. It's kind of became their entire defense now after being a sub package for a lot of years. They're great at match scores. They're not going to give you any leverage pre-snap. They're not going to make it, they're not going to show you anything pre-snap to make you identify coverage. They're going to stay static. They're going to keep everything in front of them. They're going to be fundamentally sound. But you can't major in Tony White's 3-3-5 defense that's built on man pressure, getting after the quarterback, and just letting things, turn loose. And then also want to minor in the static nature of Iowa's match quarter scheme. And Rhule's mentioned about how much he admires what Iowa does. You can't major in that and minor in that, So I think that at the end of the day, we're really hurting ourselves by shuffling back and forth between these coverages on a game-to-game basis. Go be you. If you're going to live by the sword, die by the sword. And if that includes, you get burned in man coverage, that's great. Keep going. Keep swinging at them with heavy, blitz packages and trying to overload protection schemes and leave everybody else in man. I think that's one of the reasons why this defense does not feel as fun as last year as well. Because last year we had some, Tony White had some really fun stuff that he threw at offenses. And this year it almost just seems like nobody's having fun on that side of the ball.
Ty Robinson is having a good time when things are going his way.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised to, had a lot of opportunities yesterday, but never once got home to the quarterback. And I think we amassed 3 tackles for loss. So, I'll say this to the defense's credit. They held him. I think, Wisconsin went for 1 4th down and they got stopped. A couple of 3rd and shorts that they got, put away. Defense yesterday did a good job, I think, of getting off the field when they needed to.
They controlled the game.
Yeah. It wasn't always pretty. I know that there were still some times where there'd be a free receiver running right through the middle of the field. But, at the end of the day, and I think I said this last night too, is, we talk about leaving some of the points on the field there and how, we could have scored 50-something, but we won 44-25. And so we're much more forgiving than if we'd have lost 25-24, It's, it's all about the final outcome, not the missed opportunities, I think. Or is that the wrong approach? Because I guess the other side of that coin is the missed opportunities could come back and haunt you on Friday or in the bowl game.
That's exactly it. Great what we did. It's something to build off of. It's a solid foundation, but you have to address the weaknesses. You have to address the moments that you've made a mistake. It's got to be corrected because on a short week, you're playing a team that does not make mistakes. They are so fundamentally sound that they are going to make you scratch and claw for everything, and they will exploit you. Like the kickoff return issues that, our kick coverage units had yesterday, I guarantee you, Iowa is sitting there already going, how can we exploit that?
And they don't even have a Cooper DeJean this year to run them back.
Should we speaking of special teams, Brian Bussini, let's fucking give it up to him. It's from October 5th, the day we beat Rutgers, to now. Talk about just putting on a clinic for what it means to be a good punter.
Yeah.
Jake, go ahead.
No, yeah, he's like I stand by what I said earlier in the season. He's probably the best player at his position that we have on the team. One of my favorite players, just for whatever it's worth, seems like a cool guy. Yeah, he's awesome. One of the better punters in the Big Ten.
I just go back to the one where he pinned him I think at the 3 when the ball rolled out of bounds. I mean, that's what Boom Sheeny can do. When he makes solid contact, is he has the ability to truly flip it. I think he punted that from like the 30. I mean, that was he hammered that ball.
Yeah.
And what I loved about it too is our gunners got down there. There was no way that that punt was going to be fielded and returned, and 2, our gunners were in such a position that they would have been able to stop it from going into the end zone. I mean, that was maybe the most perfect punt I think I've seen all season.
Agreed. That was awesome. And like highlighting the gunners. Gunners came down, turned around. They were in position to wherever the ball bounced, they were going to be able to stop it. Great execution.
Yep.
I am very concerned about our kickoff coverage. Very, very concerned. I mean, it's shaky at best right now.
Yep. And, I think a big point of emphasis needs to just be putting the ball in the end zone on kickoffs. Yeah. Just eliminate it entirely.
Just eliminate that factor, because we don't look like we're getting down there to potentially force a turnover. The risk versus reward factor on that is not even close right now.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, I think that sometimes coaches make too big of a deal and they put too fine a point on it with the, hey, let's get a sky kick and let's try, and force a turnover down there. Let's do a squib kick and see if they don't cover it or if there's any weaknesses there. Just put it out of the end zone, make the team start the 25 and go, let your defense go to work. Adi Kunalik was Mr. Automatic for Nebraska with that. That was a great thing where it's just boom, right there.
Yep.
Fred, loved the Sopranos reference that Brian Bassini took out 16 Czechoslovakians. Guy was an interior decorator. I was pretty surprised by that because his house looked like shit. If you've seen the Sopranos, Fred knows it. I don't need to explain it.
Here's a fun one for you, Haas. You're going to love/hate this comment and probably hate it. Marianne says, why can't we find a Troy Polamalu? I loved him at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I agree, Marianne. I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I love Troy Polamalu.
Love Troy. You got to love Troy.
Great player.
But why can't we find a Troy Polamalu? Well, also, I think as a Steelers fan,
Pittsburgh scheme that Cower and Tomlin ran back then was just pure fucking chaos. I mean, there were so many things that they did that weren't fundamentally sound from a schematic standpoint, but it was, hey, Troy's such a phenomenal athlete. We're just going to let him freelance and do his thing back there. It's like Levante David was so good that even though he wasn't the starter to start 2010 and Will Compton was, he wasn't even though he's really good, Will Compton was the starter because Levante didn't know the playbook. And then after he got hurt, they were forced to play him. And at that point, Pelini was like, okay, he is what he is. This guy's a phenomenal football player. I'm not going to drive the point home on learning the playbook. I'm just going to let him go out there and do whatever he needs to do.
I also think that, again, being a Steelers fan and seeing, the Troy tribute videos and things like that on my social media feed, the game of football is not what it was even when Troy Polamalu played. We had a comment in here about, will we ever have a safety or like another Ronnie Lott? I'm like, no, because you can't hit like these safeties used to hit. You'd be targeting calls and it's a different game than it was.
From a physicality standpoint, I agree with you. The game's changed, but having a safety like that who's just so smart and instinctual is kind of how I interpreted Marianne's comment.
We're also talking about Troy. Aaron Rostovsky, there's maybe been 5 Troy Pomalos in history. Yeah, 100%, man. Who's in that category? Ronnie Lott. I would probably put John Lynch in there. John Lynch, all-time great safety. Troy Polamalu. I'm not putting these in order, but Troy Polamalu.
Ed Reed.
For sure, Ed Reed.
I might put him at the top, actually.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that.
Not
in my presence.
The Peyton Manning story about him. They played the Colts in week 12 for 11 weeks. He played a specific coverage and a specific down distance wrong. And Peyton Manning saw it and they wanted to throw a deep post off a Mills concept. And Ed Reed ended up picking it off. Ed Reed later told him he purposefully played that coverage wrong for 11 weeks straight because he knew Peyton was going to make that throw. The ultimate rope-a-dope.
Mm-hmm. And obviously Steve Atwater. A lot of comments.
Yeah.
obviously great player as well. So
Dave Dewerson would have to be up there on that list too.
That's Ed Reed playing chess when Peyton Manning's playing checkers.
You don't out snooker Peyton Manning too often.
No, that's good. That's a great story. Yeah, I just there was something in here about just a generational safety.
Sean Taylor would have been could have been the great, like Aaron just said again, make another good comment, could have been maybe the greatest ever.
Honestly, Mike Brown, if he doesn't have all the injuries in Chicago, that guy had every potential to be a Hall of Famer. Bears fans are sick about the injury problems that he had. Probably the best open field tackler at Nebraska too.
TSD, Jack Lambert was a safety, or not a safety, was a linebacker for the Silver and Black.
Black and gold.
Like
Silver and black, that's the Raiders. Black and gold. I don't know what I'm saying. It's like my brain won't even let me put those colors together to formulate that sentence.
No, it's because it's Iowa week. Hell is painted black and gold.
Yes.
You
guys know what I meant.
Does it feel that you are a fan of the Iowa Hawkeyes of the NFL?
No, that's not the case.
How do you feel? You should be depressed.
No, because the Steelers have won championships.
Yeah, but
there you go.
They're perennial 9-7 with a standing reservation in the wild card for the past 8 years.
The past 8 years, but at least they have some sort of history. Iowa's got nothing.
No, my favorite Jack Lambert story, I don't know if y'all know this. When coaches went to Kent State to kind of scout him, they had, I don't know, a storm or something. They come through the field, even the practice field were completely useless. So he was doing his tryout essentially in the parking lot, and he was flying around full speed on gravel, and he would get up and he would pull chunks of gravel out of his arm and keep going. That's my favorite Jack Lambert story. Tough as nails, man.
I love Ronnie Lott's one of my favorite football players of all time. Anybody who willingly loses a digit so they can just keep playing ball, you're a football guy.
Anybody who wants to go through it.
Well, he regrets it now, he said.
Oh, well, sure. Hindsight being 20.
I want to track down the guy that took his. Does anyone know who that guy was that took that finger?
He's got like the mummified remains in like a cigar box somewhere.
Yeah, it's just.
We had a few minutes ago, we had this comment from Fred. It's about our defense this year. Fred says, this year our blitzes suck too. They almost always get picked up.
When you're playing match quarters, everything changes. Run fits change. Where your aiming point on blitzes change because the anchor points of your scheme change. You're instead of having a defensive end in one spot, it may be an inside technique on the offense tackle. You got to put him on the outside shoulder because now he's got the easy force outside contain on all runs to that side. And so when we do that, what ends up happening is teams are able to identify our blitzes pretty easily because we're not out leveraging anybody at the point of attack. We're not overloading one side of the formation anymore. We're playing so static and just keeping everything perfectly aligned, accounting for everything pre-snap that it doesn't create the confusion and the disruption that you see like when we would overload one side of the offensive line against Purdue last year when Hudson Card was running for his life.
Let's see here. A couple other starred comments. See if I can find one that's definitively about defense since we were talking about that. Here we go. These are some back-to-back Ty Robinson appreciation posts. James Boardman says Robinson made some money by coming back. Might be a third-round pick, hopefully close to a second-round pick. And then Justin Rogers says, how much has Ty's draft stock risen since he decided to come back? Is he our first player off the board?
Yes.
He's absolutely our first player off the board. It's just a question on where he goes.
Yep. I've always felt like, and I've said this before, he seems like a guy that'll go to an NFC North team and play for like 12 years for somebody.
Yeah.
and
just relish in it. Kind of like maybe like a Kyle Vanden Bosch.
That's it. You took it right out.
That's perfect.
I had it right in the holster. I was going to be like Vanden Bosch-esque, but yeah, you beat me to it.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
No.
Aaron Rostovsky just said we also stack our defenders on the perimeter at times, which is dead giveaway for a blitz. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Let's see here.
Barney will be a first-round pick. Yeah, but not. He's only a true freshman. Yeah. We're talking about guys that are going to go in this draft.
Oh,
Barney, when we were talking about like recruits, getting the benefit of the doubt, getting more opportunities to get reps, because of name recognition. Barney's a great example of a guy as a freshman that puts enough on paper to go, this guy could be potential superstar status in a couple of years. Like, he's got the kind of moves that this is a guy that could contend for big-time awards if he continues to develop. And we continue to make sure there's pieces around him so he's not just the only offensive weapon we're relying on.
Right.
Mr. Raji would absolutely take him on the Lions.
More of a Bears guy in the NFC North, Justin. So I'd like to see him in Chicago.
Well, John Johnston's a Packers fan, so.
John Johnston also, I have a lot of questions about his just mental. In general.
Let's see. Let's flip to the other side of the football. Braska Rascal asked me, Greg, or maybe not asked, more of a statement. Greg, let's call for Holgorsen to bring back the diamond formation.
Love that formation when he had Kendall Hunter at Oklahoma State.
Obviously we'd have Dante. We would have Emmett Johnson, assuming it was this year. We're trying to, they're not going to bring it in this year, but who would be the third?
They can install it on a week-to-week basis.
Why do I feel like if you're going to do
it, it's just, as Mike Leach said, it's just a new place to stand before they snap the ball. That's all it is.
Why do I feel like the best third back in that diamond formation would be Heinrich Haarberg?
I could totally see that, but I think that Ja'Cory Barney is the point man in the diamond behind the quarterback. You can motion him out, hit him on a flare, get the defense flowing out there.
I like the, I don't remember seeing the diamond, at least. Was it Tim Beck that ran it with like Amani Cross, Amir Abdullah?
Terrell Newby.
Terrell Newby
fumbled an option pitch first drive of the game against Michigan State. That would have been a 70-yard touchdown. Yeah. That Michigan State team went on to win the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, could have been us. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Rostovsky says, plus we have tons of practices coming up for a bowl to put that in, Greg. How quickly we forget. Sorry, I'm not used to thinking about bowl games in November.
Raji says that he understands that I don't like the team that will be at the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and ruin the three-peat. One of my best friends is a lifelong Lions fan. I have nothing but happiness for him when his team, we were at the game in Arrowhead when they beat the Chiefs. I was mad about the game, happy for the guy, long-suffering fan. If they do beat the Chiefs, I'd be happy for the Lions. And I probably, if they played today, the Lions would win.
Also on the offensive side of the football, this is the one that Blaine Cole asked a while back, and I said, we'll star that and keep it for later. Can Nebraska offer a dual threat at quarterback now? I believe we have an offer at JT Lateef or TJ Lateef.
Yep. I still have opinions on that one, but
yeah.
I honestly think that dual threat it's the way to go in college football. And Dylan's athletic enough to be a dual threat. It's just, do you want to run him? Does he it's got to be something that's emphasized, because I think a lot of times with a thrower like that, you're concerned about getting him hurt. But at the same time, it's football. You got to go out there and let it rip. You got to pick up a tough 2 yards on 3rd and 2, and you're running speed option. Go out there and lower the head and try to get the first down.
Meanwhile, Jake, Fred's just over here being a shit disturber, saying, I hope we offer a real quarterback here sometime soon.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I don't know about this recruiting class coming up. We'll see. I know we're ranked. The recruiting class is ranked pretty highly, but I think we're pretty lean on running backs, and Lateef, the quarterback, we'll see. I don't know if he ever makes it to Lincoln, but
we need to go out and get a highly ranked running back either from high school, or we need to go and get one from the portal. Much I like Dowdell and Emmett Johnson based on what they showed yesterday. We need somebody who can step in there and really make a difference. I thought Kejuan Lacey could have been a guy that developed into that, and then he decommitted last year and goes to Mizzou, where he's kind of languished in his first year. I think that he would have gotten a lot more snaps here this year with how excited the coaching staff was about him before his decommitment.
Yep.
Let's see here.
Should we talk about Iowa predictions?
We should, but what do you think about this take from Nebraska Rascal about Danny Kalen? Danny Dimes should probably hit the portal.
I think that's. I understand the sentiment, but I think it's probably a little premature.
I was going to say the same thing. I mean, I don't know. Even if you have, because I don't know if Latif's going to make it. Like you said, Haas and Jake. You have Dylan, Danny. You'll have Dayton. You can't have too many high caliber quarterbacks, I don't think.
You got to take as many as you can because,
right.
I mean, we've been a case study over the past decade of what it looks like to be thin in quarterback depth. How many other teams did we see? We knocked out their starter. They bring in a backup in who just absolutely has a career day against us. Yeah.
Yeah. Or we don't even knock out the starter, but, like the guy gets injured in, the game prior and we have this unknown commodity that we're going up against, and then he torches us for 300 yards.
Yeah. Or Jaden Maeva, last week with USC.
Londell says he would take a Burkhead as well.
Burkhead was a highly rated recruit out of Plano, Texas. He wasn't some scrub.
Afterthought.
I use that term and not like as a derogatory, but he wasn't like some scrub walk-on or some 3-star ranked 900th in his class. He was a top 150 guy. At least he was in the top 250. So, no, he was a highly touted 4-star out of Texas.
Yeah, Texas wanted him bad. He just wouldn't commit to them when they wanted him to commit, and why he ended up here.
Let's see here. I thought I had a question. Real quick, Ken E says Badger Nation's losing their shit. Used to live in Wisconsin. The meltdown by their fan base is chef's kiss.
Beautiful.
And I think at some point, Haas, you made a jokingly, maybe derogatory comment. No, not about me, but I guess Minnie was teasing you or something. Anyway, said, please visit us on the 5 Heart again. She says, I understand if it's too much Greg, though.
Yeah, it is too much Greg, Minnie.
That's fine.
I'll definitely converse with you. I knew you were teasing, but Greg, that guy can, take a long walk off a short pier.
Well, Blaine's going to kick us off with the Iowa talks. He says to Haas, but to all of us, do you see any issues focusing on Iowa rather than looking ahead to a bowl game?
No. This is, as far as I'm concerned, this is the great opportunity. We got bowl eligibility locked up already. We're able to go in there and play loose and carefree and just play football. Let each play, play one at a time. Don't get too caught up in I got to go make this play. I got to go make that play because we got to get to a bowl. We're able to go in there knowing that, our destiny is already in our hands. And I think that any time that you have a rivalry game, and this is what I love about the Nebraska-Iowa rivalry. For the first time really in our history, we have a rivalry that's not built on like mutual respect and competing for championships like Nebraska, Oklahoma. This is a rivalry that's just built on pure hatred for one another. And so we're able to go in there and focus on this as a one-game roll of the dice and just throw everything you got at it. I don't think there should be any issues focusing on them rather than looking ahead to a bowl game, because if we focus on Iowa, we can just worry about the bowl game later, and we can even improve our bowl stock by beating Iowa. With 8 years of pent-up demand for Husker fans wanting to go to a bowl game, we'll get a nice bump to a really nice bowl game if we're 7-5. Take Iowa's standing reservation in the Outback Bowl, Jake.
Yeah.
That actually, there was some bowl game speculation. I definitely think the focus is, I don't think the team's going to have any problem focusing on Iowa because, again, that's the opponent you know. You don't know what bowl game, what geographic location you're heading to, who your opponent's going to be. I don't think it's going to be difficult to focus on Iowa. And for, the guys like Ty Robinson, even Isaac Gifford, John Bullock, the veterans, they want to bring more hardware back to Lincoln. I remember it was about this time last year where Ty's like, he didn't even let any speculation. He was like, I'm coming back next year. Mm-hmm. There's more things to do. But Beetle B said Kansas and Nebraska in a bowl is what he wants.
I'd be down with that.
Yeah.
I really want LSU.
Ooh. move up against one of the rather than look back, no backsliding to the Big 8 days, but go up against one of the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just like
perennial juggernauts.
I know people are kind of getting frothy about playing Oklahoma in a bowl game. That just doesn't do much for me. We've already played Oklahoma twice in the past few years. I want to go with bowl games. I want to play somebody that we don't get a lot of opportunities to play, and we haven't played LSU since the 80s.
No.
I think South Carolina is an interesting
that'd be a good one
matchup as well.
Fred says, I hope we get a shitty team so we can win. I guess for me, I don't have a preference. I'm just excited I said this last night. I'm just excited that we're going to have Nebraska football outside of November, for the first time in a long time. I remember it was Nebraska UCLA in I don't think it was a Holiday Bowl, but it was
Foster Farms
Bowl, 2015, New Year's Eve. And I remember still watching that in the NICU with my oldest, when he was just a newborn, watching on a little tablet that I had. And that was the first game we watched. He was asleep. But that's the last bowl game that we won was 2015. He'll be 9 in a month. We gotta right this ship, and I'm excited that we are at least. And I got shit for this last night, Haas, but we are markedly better than we were a year ago, because last year we were 5-7. And at least right now we're 6-6.
It's incremental
6-5.
It's incremental improvement. We made the next step. It didn't even always look pretty. Development isn't always linear either. We regressed in some areas and we improved in others. And, we got that bowl game. We got that second year bump under Matt Rhule that his teams always have. And then hopefully next year it's, the third year jump that his teams have had. So I think that there's nothing, there's moments you'd like to have back this year, but I don't think there's anything, that's too glaring outside of getting beat 56-7 by Indiana.
Yeah. Real quick before we move on to predictions, did you expect or anticipate the way that Ohio State-Indiana game would have gone down, Jake?
No, I did not. I thought that Indiana was going to keep it a lot closer than they did. It was a complete dismantling. Indiana was out-coached, out-schemed, out-played, out-physicaled. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't even close. So, no, I did not anticipate that.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of played out. I think I said this on the 5 Hard on Thursday, Greg, that I wanted Indiana to win, but I had a feeling Ohio State might remind them, hey, you're still Indiana.
Right. Well, I think it's time that we remind Iowa who we are. Mm-hmm. On Black Friday, 6:30 Central kickoff prime time from Kinnick. Haas, you will be there. Mm-hmm. Because of the cold, because of the, what'd you say, 16 or 18 degree kickoff?
18 degrees, chance of snow.
That will probably negate the likelihood of you wearing assless chaps to the game.
Yeah, so I'm going to leave those at home.
Probably safe.
Yeah. My mesh tank top, too.
That part disappoints me.
Those are for the special nights with the boys, Haas.
Yep. For the boys.
Jake, Aaron wanted to know any good boys tonight.
Yeah. He was messing around he wasn't being good actually. He was chewing on toys he shouldn't have been chewing on over here. And I was yelling at him and I kept hoping that I had myself muted, but yeah, then he was over here messing around by the fireplace. So I don't know. He went upstairs. I don't know.
Yeah.
Go lay with his mom.
Well, let's across the board at the beginning of the season, everybody picked wins, including John. However, John said that the winner would go to the Big Ten championship game. That is clearly not going to happen. Jake, you said Nebraska would win this game against Iowa 17-9. Any changes you want to make on that?
Yeah, I think that both teams will score a little bit more. I know that there's a chance of snow, and I know that it's going to be really cold, but I'm thinking this is going to be still a Nebraska win. I'm going to go – I'll go 27 – Iowa is always weird, so I'll go 27-19.
Okay.
Weird Iowa doing weird stuff and getting to 19 somehow.
Haas, the score you gave at the outset was 23-14. What changes would you like to make?
Well, there's a few changes I'd like to make.
Okay.
One, it's cold and there's a potential of snow late, but the wind's only supposed to be 8 miles an hour. So you can still throw the ball when it's cold as long as there's no wind. 23-14 was kind of accounting for the Marcus Satterfield ineptitude with a few things. So I really want to go with a blowout win in this one, but I just don't know how much. Like, I want to say 37-14, but I'm going to hedge a little bit. I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to go 30-21 Nebraska.
I like that.
It's the restore the order game of the Matt Rhule era.
Oh, God. I think I'm going to ask you real quick just to call it anything else.
Dude, that's one of the best moments of the past 25 years. So your anti-Callahan shit, miss me with it, Greg.
But was order restored?
Yeah, we beat him 30-3.
All right. But long-term order, I mean.
No, dude. Like, come on.
That's why I thought the only reason I say that is because
view it in isolation. Aaron Wiscy loves restore the order.
Yeah.
It wasn't restore the order was not let's go win national championships again. Restore the order was like, hey, let's restore the order in this game.
Okay. All right. That's my
all-time favorite Husker football memory that I was alive and coherent for. So I feel passionately about this one.
I understand, and viewing it through that perspective, okay, I always interpret it as this is going to be the game that launches us back to the upper echelon. So that's why I don't look at it as from the same, I don't say rose-colored glasses because I don't want to be demeaning, but I don't look at it the same as you do because I guess I just interpreted it differently. So,
dude, we were huge underdogs in that game, and we went there and kicked their ass 27 points. Pretty much got Gary Barnett fired. And along with the scandal that was going on.
Right, the recruiting.
If he continues to win, it's Colorado. They're not going to fire him for that. But because he was losing, it was a convenient pretext to get rid of him. But, yeah, that game, one of my all-time favorites, Corey Ross on the middle screen right up the middle to go up 17 points right before halftime. And that win against Michigan, I know Blaine's talking about how he nearly lost to Michigan. That was a great win against a team that was loaded with NFL guys.
The Alamo Bowl, wasn't it?
Yep.
I remember watching that. I remember where I was watching that. Mm-hmm. TSD says, if we beat Iowa, I'll do 1,000 jumping jacks. I will have to take your word for it, Tiger Shark Diver, because I don't know if you filmed that and share it with us. I just don't know how to verify. Anyway.
With the mesh tank top, TSD.
Yeah, and the assless chaps. Why not? Let's go big or go home. BFOTS Josh Hansen just got here and probably was wondering what he missed.
You missed some wild stuff, bro.
Yeah, we're talking about assless chaps, buddy. So maybe you want to sit the rest of this one out.
Right. Can I want to do something here.
Fire away.
In addition to our score predictions.
Yes.
It's Iowa. When we've done podcasts in previous years on Iowa week, we've done a bold prediction to go along with our score predictions. I've already got mine in the holster, so I can go first if you guys need time to think.
Well, I'll tell you what, I haven't given my score yet, so let me do that, and I'll throw my bold prediction in there as well. We're 5.5-point dogs, and I think the over-under is 39.
Yep, 39.
Okay. I always go the over because I always have faith in our offense. So I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to say 34 Nebraska to 20. And I think my bold prediction will be Nebraska will have a pick six.
Okay. Jake?
I'll write that down. Pick.
Yeah, my bold prediction will be that we'll have a special team score. Block field goal, something like that. Barney return for a touchdown. Something, some weird in the snow game cold will happen like that.
All right. I got another non-traditional score. Ty Robinson rushing touchdown.
Ooh, that's a good one.
You give him the ball.
I think that would be the game to do. I think that would mean the most to him, to get out rather than a bowl game. So
I want to point out one thing. Nebraska T-Bone says, how many yards will we need to limit Caleb Johnson to for Big Red to still win game? I think that we could honestly give up 100 yards to him and still win. They are starting a third-string quarterback, Jackson Stratton, in the game. They don't have a lot on offense again. So, again, their receivers aren't the receivers that'll scare you like Amir Smith-Marset was. Really shut down sell out on the run, force Stratton to beat you with the pass. And if Caleb Johnson still gains some yards, that's fine. It's not the end of the world. But just don't let him score in the red zone. I think that it's got to be selling out against the run 100%. I think this needs to be a game where you don't even mess around with anything in match quarters in coverage against Iowa. You go man, and if you get beat, it's because the athlete made a play. Don't give them any assistance with your scheme.
So Fred says you took his Ty Robinson prediction. Beetleby says Ty the fridge. James Bournemouth says his bold prediction is that Barney finally busts a pop pass for a 69-yard touchdown. A very specific number there. Marianne Roberts wants to see a Ty Robinson touchdown, so she loves that prediction. And that's kind of all right now.
I can't remember if Jackson Stratton is the Colorado State transfer from Iowa or what, but it looks like he is the Colorado State transfer. But they were also dealing with having a quarterback who 3 weeks ago was a third-team scout team linebacker. So, I mean, that's about as bad as it gets for quarterback situations there.
Well, I think we've about squeezed every bit of juice we can out of this one, guys.
I think we have. I think the hay's in the barn on this one.
The hay, that's good. You know what? That's more Nebraska than squeezing the juice. Thank you guys for coming out, and happy Thanksgiving to you both. Enjoy it with your families, and travel safe to Iowa. Now, Haas, this is just you don't have to answer this question. This is kind of on the spot. Will you participate in the wave?
Yeah, I'm not a monster. Okay, I'm not a monster. Do I have some opinions on you can't call it a tradition the first year you're doing it in 2017? Absolutely. But I was there in 2022 and I waved, Granted, it helped that we were up like 17-0 when the wave came up. If we were down 17-0, I might, be a little bit more hesitant, but I still would participate. It's for the kids, man.
Jake, Minnie has a question for you. A couple questions. Do you like theater and art, and are you free on Thursday nights?
Jake, I want you to think very carefully about this.
I need more context to answer that question.
I didn't get it last week. It's yes or no.
I'm going to say no. I can't say yes to something I don't know about, so no.
Raji says think carefully about it. Rostovsky says say no. Fred wants you to say yes, yes, yes.
I feel like there's some kind of hazing thing. I don't know how.
Well, do you like listening to Greg talk like this? Well, hell's bells, Margaret. I guess we better call it out.
Oh. So all of a sudden, I sound like Hank Hill.
Yeah, or like Michael Gambon from the movie The Insider when he plays somebody from the South.
I'm not good at impersonations or impressions, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, I was a big city Southern lawyer.
You should be in a, oh God, what is it? The Rainmaker, that movie with Matt Damon.
Oh, no, I was thinking of My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah, that's not bad.
It's just more of a small city Southern lawyer. And real quick, Brasco Rascal loves that we played jump around to troll Wisconsin at the 2-minute timeout.
Did we really?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Love it.
Yeah, we weren't taking any shit from them. So, all right, I think that'll do it. Everybody, thank you again. We have more Corn Nation Live for you the next 3 nights. Monday Night Therapy tomorrow night with John Johnston, and on Tuesday Husker Happy Hour with Andy Ketterson. And because Thanksgiving is a Thursday, which is when we typically do the 5 Heart podcast, Minnie and I will be here with you Wednesday night, 9:00 Central, for another live 5 Heart, and then we'll give you a Thursday with your family. And if appropriate, we apologize for doing that to you, and we'll all reconvene at our television sets, except for Haas, who will be in Kinnick Stadium for Husker football Friday night, 6:30 against the Iowa Hawkeyes in the rivalry game. So thank you, Jake. Thank you, Haas. Great catching up with you guys, and it always so much fun to do it after a win. We smile a lot more and we laugh a lot more when we take care of business on the football field. So that'll do it for this episode of the Corn Nation Overreaction. Everybody, we'll see you when we see you. Go Big Red. Haas.
Restore the order.
Jake.
Fuck Iowa.
Oh,
yes.